we are again, back out in the garage working on the MGC. Haven't been out here for a while because I had a few other things to do. One in particular is working on my MGB V8. The starter motor has decided to pack up, and it's been a little bit tricky to sort the problem out, so hopefully we get a video of that up soon. So in part one, I fabricated the basic shape of the trumpet, and in this episode I've got to fabricate the underneath side, which is quite tricky to make, and trying to sort of shape it up, make it fit a bit better. I'm never really happy with the sort of the nose of the trumpet. It never looked right, so I actually ended up recutting it and bending it again and mucking around to make it a bit more sensible. I notice online that when people make these, everyone seems to come up with their own idea. I'm not sure what the right way of doing it is really, but I made it this way and bended it as you saw in part one using a former. I thought it saved quite a lot of welding because I'd done basically in bends rather than separate pieces of metal and try to weld them all together. So I thought it tended to hold the shape better. Right, getting out the trusty cardboard. Now, if anyone's watched any of my previous videos, I normally use wallpaper, a lining paper, a very thick wallpaper for making my templates, because I find it's really useful and it bends well. But in this case, I've decided to use the old trusty cereal packet, which of course I've got loads of laying around, because it just seemed to, in this particular scenario, I needed it to be rigid enough to hold the shape, but flexible enough that I could sort of bend it. Anyway, I just thought the feel of it would work better with slightly thicker cardboard than what I normally use. Okay, so having made the template out of cardboard, transferred that to my sheet of steel, whizzed round it with a cutter and cut it out. Now I'm just marking the bends, which I shall run through on the bead roller. Now what I'm showing you here is my Vevor modified bead roller, which I've used many times before, and this is my homemade edging tool. I don't know the right name for it, but it didn't. The Vevor machine didn't come with this type of tool, and me being a tight-fisted so-and-so decided I'd have a go at making one, so I did. And what I did was I cut the disc. Well, you'll see in a minute how I cut the disc. It certainly works quite well. I've used it quite a lot. out of that. There you go. I had an old wood cutting disc, you know, for a wood saw, and I literally cut the centre out, rounded off, give it a little bit of an edge, and I tell you what, it really does work a treat. Now you might be thinking, oh well, that was going to work because it's fairly thin still, it's only Zintek. You're thinking, oh that's okay, anything to do that. But if you watch some of my other videos, particularly one, I think it's called Kevin's First Panel, where my mate made a panel for this same MGC, and he made that out of 16 gauge. Now we used exactly the same tool on 16 gauge, and as you'll see, it really did work nicely. Better than I thought. I have tried using a hard rubber wheel at the bottom on the machine, but to be honest, I didn't find it any better. You didn't get a real nice sharp, in my opinion, a real nice sharp bend. And if you would be kind enough to click the like and subscribe button, it is really appreciated. I don't make any money out of, really don't make any money out of doing these videos. It is really for fun. So we've got the basic shape of the underbit done. So we're just going to cleco it onto the top bit and sort of massage it round to make it fit a bit nicer. I know it seems like it's going on forever, all this tapping around, but there is no other way really. You just have to keep massaging it with a hammer and tweaking it a bit. And like I'm doing here, I've decided I'm going to make a couple of cuts in it because I'm still not happy with the nose of it, of the pointed end of the trumpet. It just looks weird to me. So I'm making some little slots, so I'm going to massage it with the hammer and try and shape it a bit better. Now, I know it's all a bit OTT because no one ever's going to see it. Once the wing's on, you don't see it, but I don't know. I'm just not happy with it, so I'm going to keep massaging it until I can get it looking a bit more sensible. you might notice on the perimeter edge of this trumpet, of this panel, I've punched loads of holes. I bought one of those pneumatic hole punchers for panels, and I just thought it was the right thing to buy, really. Thought, well, that'll make life easy. Read the reviews, the reviews seemed quite good. And then the reality of what I found was that the holes are just too small. If you're doing plug welds or puddle welds or whatever you like to call them, those little tiny holes, you just don't get enough weld in them. I think there must be more for, I don't know really, but they're certainly on a different machine than what I'm using, an ordinary MIG welder. So as you'll see later when I stitch it on, I just filled the holes up and I sort of went right round the outside and did a solid weld on it in the end. In fact, most of the stuff I do on this car now, I just do solid welds all round. I might tack it to start, but then I do consistent, just consistent welds right round. Well, I've ground it up a bit, taken the zinc paint off a little bit, doing a bit of a final alignment, I think. I mean, I know the paint that I'm using is supposed to be weld-through primer. That's what it says on the tin. It seems to be quite highly rated, but I suppose you can weld through it. But I still feel inclined just to, run the disc over it, just to over it, just to take it back to the bare metal. And you might notice that I've now changed my drum jumper to the grey fashion model. It's got air vents built into the elbows. If you would like one of these jumpers, I'm thinking of putting them on sale, trying to make some money somewhere. Funnily enough, a friend of mine came round a couple of weeks ago and I had this jumper on, and he came in the garage and he said, "Crikey," he said, "I can't believe you're wearing that jumper." I said, "Well, it's only for welding." He said, No. He said, "I've got one just like that." He said, "I'm always been told off for wearing it." He said, "But why wear anything else when you're grinding and welding? Because whatever you do, it's going to muck it up." So obviously, I'm not the only one, obviously. I think I might have said before in some of these videos that when I first started this project, I really hadn't picked up a MIG welder for 35, maybe 38 years. Never particularly trained on it. So of course, it's always been DIY. DIY standard, but I'm slowly getting the hang of it. It's coming back to me now. I was originally using one of the very first Sealy MIG welders, DIY MIG welders, which was, as I said, must be 38 years old. But when I got into this project, I realised it really had passed its day. So I'm now using a Tigran MIG welder. I can't remember the model off the top of my head, but you can look it up. It's Tigran. It's not the cheapest model. I think it's about the second one up. Cost me, I believe, about £300, including the accessories. Obviously, no gas bottle. That doesn't matter. You can use it for gasless MIG. You can use it for TIG. The TIG equipment I haven't used, but it does have a TIG gun, and you can also use it for arc welding. I've done quite a lot of arc welding with it. In fact, I used it to make the rotisserie, as you can see just on the right hand side, the yellow thing. So I practiced quite a lot of arc welding with that, and then I switched over when I got the MGC in the garage, and then started doing mainly MIG. But I'm very pleased with the welder. It works extremely well. I did treat myself to a reasonable size bottle of gas for the MIG welder. In the past I used to use those little hobby bottles, but I used to get through a lot of little hobby bottles, and I knew that. So when I started the MGC, I thought, no, this time we treat ourselves to not a full size bottle. I think it's a quarter size bottle. I think I'm so far on about my second refill. Pay about, after the initial purchase of the hire of the gas canister, I think the refills cost me about £70, but they do last a long time, and it just saves the aggro. I keep running out of gas. One of the other things that I got involved in, which again stopped me working on the sea for a couple of weeks, is a friend of mine, well, Kevin. If you watch some of the videos, my mate Kevin's quite often in the background or making something. He brought his Peugeot van round, and one of the seals had rocked right out, and he said, oh, could I give him a hand to put a new outer seal on it? So we did spend a couple of weekends, nearly 2 weekends really, cutting the old one off and grinding it back, and he bought a new seal for it. Nice panel actually, quite cheap. And then between us we cleaned that up and stitched it on. Come out quite well. We're ready for another MOT. I suppose we should have filmed it on retrospect, but you think about these things afterwards. At the time, we just wanted to get the job done. It was a necessity to get it done, really, because he uses it for work. So there you go. You can see all the little holes that I punched all around the outside with the intention of just spot welding through the holes. But when we put it on, we obviously done some panels on the bench and filled the holes up with plug welds, and that just weren't strong enough. It was just not good enough. So all the other panels that we've made after this one, because this was one of the first panels, but it was the very first panel we made. I think Kevin bent it originally, bent the panel up. I'll say, but since then we don't use that particular hole punch. I drill all the holes now out to about 7mm, and then we just plug well through the 7mm. And then what I do after I plug well through the 7mm, I then pretty much every time I go right around the outside and do a solid weld. So not only is it plug welded, but then it's also stitched around the outside as well, which is a bit OTT, but I just feel happy with a solid weld around it. But it does mean quite a lot of grinding. You just have to grind it. Well, I hope you enjoy these videos. They're quite fun to make, and it's, it gives me another interest doing the car. So you're not only enjoying yourself with the project, doing the car, but also making the videos and then having to edit them. It's good fun. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.